Oh, what's up, guys? Welcome to Preacher Reads. Today I want to talk about a problem that we all have. Sometimes we're reading and we're enjoying books, and the next thing we know, we're in a slump. We don't even want to read. We wake up and it feels like a chore to crack open that book that you were interested in just a couple of days ago. We have all been there, and I want to talk about 7 ways that I think you can help yourself if you're in a reading slump. Let's get started. I recently found myself in a reading slump. I had taken on a bunch of books, some buddy reads, some things for the channel, and just everything came together, and I found myself in a place where I didn't want to read. I would go to the gym, and instead of audiobooking the book that I was doing audio for, I would listen to music, and I didn't feel any interest in clicking play on that audiobook. I would get home, and instead of reading before bed, I would just scroll my phone because I just didn't feel the need to read. And I hated that feeling, and I wanted to get back to loving what I was reading. And so there's a few things that I did and have done in the past to stop myself when I'm in that dreaded reading slump. And let's talk about them. The first one is the most important. And you need to hear me out here, especially if you're in the BookTube community or if you're in a bunch of groups where you're reading together with other people. It is okay and it is vitally important to put the book down. Now, here's what I mean. You are fine if you put a book down. Don't feel like you have failed if it's just time to take this big chunky book you're reading and set it aside for a couple days, maybe even longer, maybe even a hard DNF. I'm just saying that if you're in a reading slump, maybe you need to take the book that you're currently reading and you need to set it aside for a few minutes just to reset. Maybe you're in a reading slump because that book isn't working for you in that moment. And man, there's been times where I've put a book down, I've set it aside, I've come back later, and I've absolutely enjoyed it. A great example of this would be Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. I actually DNF'd it the first time that I tried to read it. I was not in a place to handle the prose. I was not in a place to devote the mental energy I needed to really understand what was happening in that book. And so I put it down and I came back at a place where I really felt like I could focus, in a place where I didn't have a lot of life stuff going on around me. I was on vacation. I could just lock into this book, and it's one of my favorite books of all time now. And all it took was just a different moment. And so even if you know you're going to love a book and you're just not feeling it, set it aside for a few minutes. You haven't failed. Set it aside for a few days. Set it aside for even a few weeks. Now, one thing that I think is really practical, good advice for setting aside a book if you're going to soft DNF it is just realize that many big books have good stopping points that aren't the end of the book. I read most of Stormlight Archive as if each book was 2 or 3 books. I would read a section and then I would put it down and I would come back like the book was a trilogy in itself and there was 3 major sections or 4 major sections. That I've found is a really good way to work through big reads if you start to feel like you are just trudging through them. Don't be afraid to break a book up, especially if it's a big fantasy book with lots of different sections or parts. It's okay to treat those as separate books and take your time so that you can enjoy them. Next up, I think this is also super important. As you're realizing that you are somebody who is in a reading slump, pinpoint the issues. Set those books aside and ask yourself, what about what I'm reading currently or my situation currently is causing me to not feel like I want to read? For me in my last one, it was I had too many books going at once that had huge fantasy worlds with multiple POVs. I was just getting overwhelmed with so many different character arcs, so many different plot points, so many different worlds and magic systems all at once. And for the last couple of months, I'd been pushing through multiple series that were like that. And it was just time for me to take a pause on that. So I went on vacation and I read 0 books with multiple POVs, 0 books with 17 different wars going on at the same time and 35 characters that we're trying to understand. I just put that on pause and reading became so much more fun for that week on vacation. And then I came back and hopped right back into those fantasy books and have been loving them, but I was able to pinpoint the problem, right? And so for you, it may be just stepping back and asking yourself, why am I currently in this slump? What is it about these books that are making me feel this way? And sometimes it's going to be something very specific, like a genre. You've just read too many of one. Or like a plot point. You've just read too many books that are doing X, Y, and Z. Or maybe it's something else. But I think if we're honest with ourselves, we can typically know what it is that's just causing us to feel like we're in this slump. We just need something different. We've got to figure out what that different is. Next up, number 3, I think has a lot to do with just not finishing books enough. I think sometimes I feel like I'm in a slump when I've just been reading the same books for so long and I haven't actually finished one. Feeling that feeling of closing that book for the last time and saying, I did it, I'm done, can help you to roll over to the next one. And so sometimes the problem is that, man, you just haven't finished enough books recently. And that's where this one comes in. How about reading something quick? Now, I've got a couple books here that really helped me in moments when I was feeling a little weighed down, feeling like I hadn't been finishing books, feeling like I was in this reading slump. And one of those was Arcoma by Callum Lott. See, I didn't feel like I needed to get away from fantasy and sci-fi. I didn't feel like it was a genre problem. I needed to burn through something that was fast-paced, finish it, enjoy it, and be done so that I could feel that feeling of accomplishment. And Arcoma did that for me because, man, really short, really fast, and was still amazing. And so I recommend finding something short within the genre if the issue isn't the genre. If you're still into fantasy and sci-fi and you want those worlds, but man, it's just something about these big chunky books that is causing you to feel a little bit of lack of accomplishment, grab something quick. Another great one would be Anji Kills a King by Evan Lakem. This is still high fantasy. This is still a wonderful fantasy series that's going to be more than one book, but man, it flew by and you're in one POV in a small section of a world. And the world building is still amazing, but I was done in a couple of days, feeling accomplished and feeling like I had enjoyed something from the front to the back. And I looked down and it had only been a few days, and man, that reading slump was gone. So don't be afraid to pick up something quick. Next up, and this isn't for everyone, but if you're somebody who enjoys different mediums, don't be afraid to change the medium. Maybe you're reading a book physically and you're starting to hit this place where you're just not being able to jump into it. You're going upstairs to go to bed at night and you see it on the side of your table and you just don't pick it up. You just go to sleep or you scroll Instagram. How about trying to dive into that book through its audiobook for a little bit of time? Maybe that change in medium will help you to get through a section that is feeling like a slog, or to reinvigorate your interest, because a lot of times audiobooks do bring something different to the table, and then the vice versa. Maybe you're just struggling with that audiobook and it's time to pick it up physically or pick it up on a Kindle and see if that will help you to change the medium. A lot of bigger series for me, a lot of big fantasy and sci-fi series like Stormlight or like Sun Eater, I have flip-flopped between the physical and the audiobook, even within books, just to keep that going. Because man, while I love Sun Eater so much and I'm flying through it, at my pace at least, I have had moments where I've been reading it physically and I switched to the audiobook because I knew what was coming up was a solidly long amount of dialogue and exposition and world building. And I knew that, man, I could take that in through audiobook over a couple of hours at the gym and really grab onto it and enjoy it. And it would take longer if I was trying to read through it. I might put that book down and not get through it quite as fast. And so switching those mediums has helped me to avoid feeling the need to put a book down completely. Instead of putting it down completely, I've just switched either to the audiobook, to the physical, to an ebook to see if that has helped to go forward. Next up, something I'm going to be doing in my videos for the near future at least is shouting out 2 things in each video. I want to shout out one content creator on BookTube who is a rising content creator, and one indie author with a new published work. And so today I want to highlight Red's Reading Cafe. He is an awesome upcoming channel, and he's going to be on our Book Street Boys podcast that should be coming out tomorrow if you're watching this on release date. Go check out his channel. It will be linked in the description. He's awesome. He's been a huge part of the Book Street Boys community for the last couple of months, and man, his channel's growing. He has great content. Also, I would love to highlight a book I just finished by a indie author who's brand new, and that is Luke Boswell and the Last Light of Edgewood. Go pick this up if you are interested and it sounds like something that you'd be interested in. It has this middle grade to YA cozy feeling, kind of like Narnia or Lemony Snicket or Harry Potter, but it's a very seriously toned story revolving around two boys coming of age. One of them is going to be thrust into this position of the keeper of the lighthouse, which has this awesome, almost savior-esque tone to it. And Luke Boswell does a fantastic job of creating something unique that is obviously inspired by Tolkien and by Lewis and by things like that. So make sure you go check that out. It is out. You can grab it on Amazon, and I think it's well worth the read. Go check out Luke Boswell and Red's Reading Cafe on YouTube. Next up, number 5 is something I think is a great thing to do if you are in a reading slump, and that is to go pick up something you loved. And I think a great example of this for me would be the Cirque du Freak books. This is a middle grade to YA horror series that I read when I was a kid. And so in between some bigger books, I will sling in a Cirque du Freak book as a reread that's full of nostalgia, and it's quick, and man, I just love going back to that world, even though it's probably not the best written thing in the world for me as an adult. But I loved it. I feel a connection to it. I open up the pages and I remember where I was when I read that book and how I felt the first time that I experienced it. And man, it reinvigorates me every time that I've finished a big book and I'm just kind of not feeling like grabbing another giant fantasy or sci-fi tome again. I pick up something like this. I pick up a book that I've reread a couple times, like A Monster Calls, which is short and quick and different, but something that I just feel a deep connection to. And so don't be afraid to reread an old book that you've loved, or maybe a new book that you've recently read and loved, and check it out again. I know Jake from Nerd Level Rising did this with the first book, Shadow of the Torturer, in Gene Wolfe's series that we've been reading together. He went right back and he read it again. And so don't be afraid to do that if you're just in this slump. Take point number 1, put down what's causing the slump, and just go grab something that you know you love. Tip number 6 is very simple. Sometimes you just need to read with a friend. Sometimes you need to go talk to a buddy, grab a buddy read, hop into the Book Street Boys Discord, check out one of the 5 or 6 books that the community has been kind of reading together. We have a book of the month each month. This month, it has been Dragon Mage by M.L. Spencer. We are currently voting on next month's right now in the Discord. And sometimes, if you're in a reading slump, you just need to have someone to talk to about what you're reading, to feel like you're reading together with someone, to motivate you, to cause you to think about the book as you're reading it. I know for me, there's been a few books that, man, I was trudging through slowly, and then one of my friends started reading it, and it really reinvigorated my desire to read it. So don't be afraid. Do a buddy read. Find a friend. If you don't have any friends, we'll be your friends. Book Street Boys Discord server in the description. Last but not least, point number 7. I think this one is a really interesting one. Sometimes you need to give in to FOMO. And if you don't know what FOMO means, FOMO is the fear of missing out. If you're watching my video, you're obviously on BookTube. I'm a smaller creator. You probably have watched 5, 6, 7, 8 different channels and are a part of the community that exists around BookTube. And there's always 4, 5, 6 series that are being talked about at a rate that makes everyone else feel like that's what BookTube is currently on, right? Sun Eater is a great example of that right now. Seems like everybody is reading Sun Eater. And so maybe you're in a book slump and you need to just pick up Sun Eater. Pick up something that your favorite booktuber is reading or that everyone is talking about, and give into that FOMO so that you can then begin to be a part of the conversation. I think that this is a great way to get over a reading slump. If you just don't know what you want to read and you're not interested in the things you're currently reading, man, it really can help to put those things down and consider what everyone else is reading and then get in on the conversation. I was trudging through Stormlight, but I really wanted to be a part of the Wind and Truth conversation. And so the last 2 books, I smoked through them way faster than I expected to, mostly because I wanted to be caught up for that book, and it helped. FOMO is not always a bad thing. Lean into it. Grab something that you know everyone is talking about so you can be a part of the conversation. All right, I want to know in the comments, what are some other tips you have when you have been in a reading slump? What do you do to get out of it? Have these tips helped you in the past? I really want to know. Make sure that you hop into the Book Street Boys Discord server. We would love to have you there. It's been an awesome time. We've got another episode of the podcast coming tomorrow if you're watching this on release day. We've had 3 so far. If you haven't gone to see them, They've been fantastic, really enjoying that format. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Please like, please subscribe if you haven't. Thank you so much for supporting this channel in every way that you do. Be looking out for a video in the next couple of days on my spooky season challenge that I'm going to be issuing to you guys. I want you to be challenged like me on spooky season. And I've got a plan to read a certain amount of books that fit a couple different categories, and I want you to do it with me. So keep your eyes out for that video. It'll be up in the next few days. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'll see you later.